Today my tea flavor is Candy Cane Lane, which only comes out at Christmas, and I'm just finishing up the rest of the box from the holiday season. It's like a delicious green tea. You know how like a mug has like a good mug feel? This mug has a good mug feel. I am warm and cozy. It's snowing a little bit outside after a few weirdly mild January days. So it's a Sunday afternoon, a perfect time to talk to you guys about secrets that will not be so secret after this. I'm spilling the beans again. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Early Childhood Educator. This is another 5 secrets of an ECE video. So I hope you enjoy what I have in store for you today. When you work in childcare, especially in a center, there's lots of little things that you may not know as parents who send your children to childcare and other ECEs who work there. You know, these are things that we talk about amongst each other, but maybe it's not spoken in the larger conversation. So I hope that this can kind of be a conversation starter, or maybe you can relate to some of these things and maybe you learned something new today. You may or may not know this about ECEs, but you probably have wondered, when do you go to the bathroom? We all have to be strategic. Every ECE knows this, that if you have your morning coffee before you get to work, you need to build in some time for the aftermath of that. Because we don't get to just go leave the classroom for several minutes at a time and go use the washroom. Pretty sure when I was, my experience in public school is that you could actually like leave the children and go to the washroom. I mean, obviously you probably don't want to take a lot of time to do that because who knows what's going to go on there, but you could still technically do that. Whereas in childcare, you cannot be out of ratio. So where I live in Ontario, Canada, the ratio for children are 3-to-1 infants to teachers, 5-to-1 toddlers to teachers, and 8-to-1 preschoolers to teachers. You always have to be in ratio. So this is so tricky. We always have to call upon either our supervisors, depending what your center is like. I always worked in small centers for the most part, and we'd have to call the supervisor. They'd have to come in, and you know, the child that's like really attached to us has a little moment of sadness, and I go to the washroom, and I'm like racing, of course, go to the washroom. So like if you're wearing an awkward outfit that takes forever to pull up and down, it's so stressful because you're like, maybe the supervisor will wonder why I'm taking so long and like be needing to get back to the office to do some work. And I think we all of us who have worked in a center know that feeling of stress and panic when you're in the washroom. Maybe you just thought you were going pee, but something else happens, and then you're like, oh no, this is gonna take forever. What am I gonna do? Anyway, so then, you know, once one EC has to go pee, the other one's like, oh, the supervisor's here, I better go pee while they're here. So then the other one has to go. So like the supervisor probably gets super frustrated because they never get any work done in their day because they're always letting the ECs go have their bathroom breaks, and you know, once you get started in something, oh, someone's got to go pee. So it's quite a conflict, and it's not like you can just hire an extra person to cover pee breaks. That's just not in the budget. You know what? Childcare centers run on a tight, very tight budget. So that's the drama of bathroom breaks in a center. In a home childcare, there's not even a person to relieve you. So guess what? I pee in front of the kids. Yeah, I have a bathroom, and if you've watched my tour video, you'll see that I've taken the door off so that I can maintain supervision while the children are washing their hands using the washroom. So I actually will use that washroom too. Oh my goodness, when I was pregnant, this was so hard. I guess children learned the meaning of privacy because I was like constantly in the bathroom, and I remember some of my toddlers would say, privacy? Toya needs privacy? Yes, Toya needs privacy. So we learned privacy, I guess. But I also learned how to do it super quick. Well, sometimes you can't be super quick. Sometimes you literally have no choice. Anyway, I try my best to like use the washroom after I get all the kids to sleep. First thing I do, I go to the washroom just in case someone wakes up in a few minutes and I don't get to go. But I have to be strategic about it. I don't know, there are lots of other jobs like this, but not everybody has to think about this in their work. I imagine healthcare providers have to do the same, or like PSWs, things like that. People who work an office job, I don't think anybody questions you when you just go up to go to the washroom. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, and if you take too many washroom breaks, people are like, what's wrong with you? Anyway, the drama of washrooms. I have actually peed outside before, many times actually, because I run a nature program, so we're outside a lot. So we have the pee tree, but I can do that because I'm at my own home and we're in the woods. You can't really do that on a playground. Definitely not. You cannot do that on a playground. Don't do that on a playground. No. So that's a constant dilemma we have working as ECEs in childcare centers and in home childcare environments. All right, moving on to number 4. So a part of our job as early childhood educators operating childcare programs or working in a childcare center is that we get to go outside. Typically, in most programs, it's twice a day. You go outside for a chunk in the morning, you eat lunch, you sleep, and you go outside again in the afternoon. And that, I think a lot of us are super grateful that we get to have designated time where we get to be outside every single day. It's so good for our mental health and for our physical health too, of course. Especially as I watch my husband work, an office job. So grateful that I have time where I get to be in nature. And that is a perk of our job for sure. We all prefer different weathers. Remember, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So as ECs, we've learned to or at least those of us who've been in the field for a while, have learned to lose all care in, vanity when it comes to dressing for the outdoors. So in the winter, we are all bundled up. Maybe we look dorky, but we're warm. And I think that's pretty cool. So, in the summers, we wear our ball caps if we can and sunglasses, and we put on sun lotion and wear proper footwear and we're ready to go and play. That is so awesome that we get to do that twice a day in our day. So that is a perk of the job for sure. However, we are also so relieved when, for whatever reason, we don't go outside and we have reduced that transition now in our day. We don't have to transition outside again, especially in the wintertime when you have to put on all the gear. Side note, I think that if someone asked me what do I like least about my job, that would be it. Getting children dressed for outside in the winter. I don't like that. Yeah, not fun, but I do it. And I frequently have to take deep breaths and know that we just have to get through this, and it's so much nicer when we're outside. It's worth it. But I will admit, I don't love getting children dressed for outside time, especially when I was super pregnant. Blech. Or if you had an injury or someone who's maybe a little bit older, that would be, yeah, that's hard. Anyway, so on those off days when we don't go outside, as much as we're I wish we could get outside because these children really need their outside time, you're also I'm grateful I don't have to help them get dressed, because that's a transition, and transitions are hard for us and for the kids. And it takes children 45 minutes at least, I think is what the studies show, to get into their play to a level where they can have deeper learning. In that first 45 minutes, children maybe just taste testing items around the room, getting a handle on what they want to play with, and then by that 45-minute mark, they're deeper in their play. So on those days where we actually get to have longer than 45-minute playtime inside, A, we're reducing that transition, and B, they have now the opportunity to get deeper into play, and that's magical too. So that's my confession. Confession number 3. Sometimes in childcare, children get hurt, and it's inevitable because children are exploring, and when you explore, you have some risks. And of course, we always monitor the environment, especially in a center. You have strict forms to fill out every single day to monitor the playground and so on and so forth, to make sure that we're having healthy risk taking and not hazards. So there's a difference between risk and hazards. We can talk about that another day. So we're frequently monitoring for hazards in our environment and making sure there aren't any. There are opportunity for risk taking, but there's no hazards. But children still get hurt because they're children and they need to get hurt to learn, you know, what their body can and can't do and what they need to work on and what's challenging for them. So sometimes they get hurt, and my confession is that we as childcare providers and early childhood educators, we get so anxious and stressed about how the parents are going to react. Now, of course, when you develop deeper relationships with the families, they trust you and you hope that they're going to, you know, take it well and they're going to understand. Sometimes you have parents that, you know, get very upset when their child gets hurt, and that is so stressful for us because, you know, number one, we care for these children so much and we don't want them to be in pain or to hurt. Even though we realize it's inevitable and it's part of life and it's part of childhood, it's still sad. And number two, worry how maybe the parents will be really upset and accusatory and, is that a word? And blame us. Your fault is because you didn't do this, or they'll question what happened, or they'll want you to repeat what happened, or who else was there, who saw it, this happen, you know, what are you gonna do differently next time? Or they question how you responded and comforted the child. Like, this stuff actually happens, and it's really sad that it does, unfortunately, but it does happen. You know, we all have different capacities and different strengths and weaknesses as parents and child caregivers too. So maybe when a child gets hurt, maybe that's where you feel the most vulnerable as a parent or as a caregiver of any sort. Also, like a liability thing, right? When if a parent's upset about their child being hurt, you wonder, like, okay, are they going to take like legal steps to like, how are they going to react? Are they just going to have a little tantrum, or are they going to, you know, accuse us of something or feel like they can't trust us anymore? And so I don't think I really experience this much anymore, this confession. The group of children I care for now, like, yeah, obviously I'm very sad when they get hurt, and I don't want the parents to feel sad too because they're my friends and we have good relationship. In the past, I've definitely had families where I'm like, I don't know how they're going to react about this. You know, their child bonked their head and maybe got a bloody nose. I don't know. I don't think that's ever happened to me personally, but I just never know. So it can be stressful, right? Number two, well, you know, we work with so many children and so many families over the years, and you really get to know children's products and clothing brands, and we have developed preferences for sure. Can I just share with you, my preference for baby wipes is Huggies baby wipes, and diapers, I like Pampers diapers, or Costco diapers are okay too. I mean, at the end of the day, I really don't care what diaper you send your kid in, but hey, if you're pregnant and you're wondering, those are my personal favorite brands. Pampers wipes suck. They don't come out nicely and they're very thin and they pull apart. Huggies wipes, solid. You know, you can do the job with less wipes. Let's talk mittens, because that's what I'm in the midst of right now. Whatever, send your kid in whatever mitts. But if you're wondering, my favorite mitts, and I think a lot of ECs would agree, are any brand that's warm and somewhat water resistant, but that has an elastic around the forearm spot, but most importantly, the wrist spot with a piece of Velcro or a cinching strap. You know how good children get at pulling their mittens off? Like, they learn how to do it with their teeth. If you can do that up tight, and if you can't find ones like that, if your child's coat at least has some elastic Velcro or something around, like that you can adjust around the wrist of the coat, then that works too. And here's a hot tip for you. Put your child's mittens on first, then put the coat on, because the mittens will just be tucked in instead of like fighting to tuck it in after. Their arms through and their mittens are stuck, like, push! Really funny. But they're getting it. Like water bottles, you know, there's some water bottles that leak or that get moldy in certain spots. And I work in home childcare, I've been providing water bottles for the most part. But yeah, we've seen them all. We've seen all the brands. We know. And along the winter clothes thing, I have a preference. If you're in the market for a snowsuit, get a one piece if you can. I mean, get whatever you can, but a one piece, throw that kid in there, zip it up, done. They've got to be cozy. You know, they definitely make adult ones. That would be awesome. Anyways, it's just kind of funny how we have these preferences as people who've worked with children for years. And come on, you have to agree with me about the Huggies wipes. Recently in conversation, this has actually come up quite a bit with people who hear that I have a home childcare, and that I'm an early childhood educator. In the conversation, they will refer to me as dun dun dun, a babysitter. I don't even know what to say. I'm not a babysitter. I did babysit when I was little, when I was a teenager. But I'm not a babysitter. Please don't call me a babysitter. Okay, so here's the scoop. I am an early childhood educator, hence the name of my show. And I went to school and I pay to be a part of a college of early childhood educators. That's something that we have here in Ontario, Canada. I do engage in continuous professional learning. I am required by the College of ECEs to do a portfolio. So in Ontario, I'm not actually familiar with what this is referred to in other provinces and in the States. I know I have some viewers from the States. Hello. In Ontario, we are registered early childhood educators, so my title is RECE. Please don't call me a babysitter. There's nothing wrong with being a babysitter. Babysitters are awesome, and we need babysitters. Heck, I have a kid now. I will need babysitters. But I am not a babysitter. I am a professional. I worked really hard to get to the position I am now, and in my business, and also in my education, and to be called a babysitter is really frustrating and discouraging. So that I really want to be an advocate for this field, and that's part of why I started this channel. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why I started this channel, is because I want people to know the importance of early childhood educators and people who raise children. Like, we're raising the next generation, and we're doing it based off of what research says children need for their development. That's social emotional development and physical development, cognitive development, and spiritual development too. So these are what we do, and what I share here is all based off of research. And I know that research because I have an education. And of course I'm always learning more and updating my knowledge. Everything we do as early childhood educators, the way our environments are set up, the way we interact with children is very intentional and thought out. And a good early childhood educator uses their words carefully and sets up their environment carefully, knowing child development and knowing they are doing so with expertise. Not just anybody can start a childcare center or a childcare business. Not just anyone can do this job. It has to be more than just loving children. This is not just about loving kids. It's really easy to love children. This is about being an ECE. You have to have certain characteristic skills. So you can't just love children. That's number one. Have certain characteristics as a person to be able to do this job well. So maybe we could do a video about that specifically, right? You have to have a certain ability to self-regulate, and you know what? We're gonna expand on this more. I'm gonna make an episode about this. In conclusion, please recognize us for what we are, and that is professionals. We are early childhood educators. We are early childhood professionals. And we worked very hard to get to the place we are. So please recognize us as more than just babysitters. All right, well, thanks so much for joining me on this week's episode. Like this video and subscribe to my page. I would really appreciate it. And feel free to comment below. Every time I receive a comment, I get really excited. If you still have more tea in your mug, watch the next video here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.